Peace and love, everybody. Peace and love. We will be starting shortly. I'm just allowing some more people to come on, but we will be starting shortly. Welcome, family. Welcome. Can y'all hear me? Can y'all see me? Check in real quick with me. You can hear me, you can see me, drop some sevens in the chat. If you can hear me and you can see me, drop some sevens in the chat. Just want to make sure everybody can hear me and see me. Before we get started. Can y'all hear me? Can y'all see me? If y'all can hear me and y'all can see me, put some sevens in the chat. If y'all can hear me, if y'all can see me, put some sevens in the chat. About to get started. About a minute or two. If y'all can hear me, y'all can see me, put some sevens in the chat. I'm just sharing. If y'all see me put my head down, I'm just sharing right now. Just sharing a live. All right, family, about to get started. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. It is your brother. It is your servant. It is your herbalist, Mikael Ben Or. Welcome to Mike Mondays. This is the Edenic Experience, where it's consciousness over corruption. Conscious being meaning being aware of your surroundings inwardly and outwardly. Welcome you all to the channel. If this is your first time, welcome. For those who've come back, welcome back. I hope y'all been enjoying the lectures the last couple months. For those who may be tuning in live or who will tune in later, I know we've been doing a lot of the lectures and conversations on Instagram, right? But I wanted to merge more over to YouTube because I want to be able to show you all the articles. I want to be able to show you all the documents. I want to be able to show you all the information rather than y'all just hearing me run my mouth. but be able to show y'all the facts and different slides of just from my research, from my understanding, and what I've thoroughly been able to put boots to the ground to understand and understand and overstand. So we about to move forward. Today we're actually going to be talking about culture. Why are we going to be talking about culture? Culture is very, very important when it comes to the livelihood of any human soul, of any human being, and where they descend from, where they originate from, because based upon your culture, it determines your education. It determines your awareness. It determines your personality. It determines your culture or character. I mean, it determines your diet. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking today. Not just the diet of physically what you eat, but mentally, and also in some cases spiritually, understanding that your culture plays a major, major factor on your health, whether that be in a good way or bad way. And that can be you being a byproduct of another culture that's not yours, or you simply applying the principles and way of life of your own culture. Seeing that as a so-called African American, the so-called Negro in America, we have been ostracized. We have been totally disseminated. We have been totally broken off from our heritage and culture, and we're in a time where we don't really know who we are, what we are, why we are, where we going, nor where we came from. And believe it or not knowing those things plays a major role on your health. It plays a major role on your mental health, your spiritual health, and also your physical health. Because if you don't know where you come from, there's no way you know where you're going, nor how to direct yourself to get where you need to go. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today, is culture. Culture being the pathway towards your divine diet, meaning divinely, meaning it is totally appointed based upon your biochemical and physiological structure, which that is something that we don't understand due to the lack of true education in the public schools, due to a lack of true education when it comes to these colleges and universities, not really teaching from a diverse standpoint, but we're teaching from a mono standpoint, thinking that everybody's the same way. Everybody's built the same. Everybody thinks the same. Everybody synthesizes the same. Everybody has the same biochemical makeup, and that's the furthest from the truth. If we see that there's a biodiversity in nature, we see that there's a biodiversity in animals, creatures, fowls of the air, beasts of the field, and fishes of the sea. Why do we think that there's not a biodiversity when it comes to the human or mankind? Why do we think there's not a biodiversity, that we're all the same, where you can't even look to each species of man and say that we're all the same, even if you want to go look at the outward part of a man, looking at the black man versus, let's say, the Asian man. We do not have the same skull structure. We do not have the same jawbone. We don't even synthesize like the same exact way. You see that? When you go into comparing the Asian to the Caucasian man, their nose structure is different. Their back structure is different. Their shoulder structure is different. Their leg structure is different. You see that? When you compare even the Negro to the what you call the Hamitic African, not saying that all Africans are Hamitic, but just so we can identify a particular group in Africa. When you look at the Hamitic African in Africa and compare him to the diasporian Negro, even our bone structures, even our face structures, even our skull structures, even down to our hair, does not mold and shape the same way. So how are we coming to this conclusion that everybody is the same? Just because we all bleed. A cow bleeds too. A lion bleeds too. Does that mean that we're the same? No. And the reality is we're not understanding chemistry on a biochemical level. We're not understanding chemistry on a cellular level. And that's what true chemistry is, understanding the biochemical makeup of a species, whether that be man, whether that be beast, or whether that be fowl or fish in the sea. Everybody has a certain diversity when it comes to biochemical makeup. And if that's the case, we will see that even down to the diet, based upon the geographical location, along with the biochemical makeup, that all species do not think the same, eat the same, move the same. You see what I mean? Even when it comes to family structure in the animal kingdom, it's not the same. You have some animals that practice polygyny. You have some animals that practice monogamy. You see that? So you see a different diversity of life, even when it comes to the perspective of animals. And we as a people, and I'm not just speaking for Black people, I'm talking about Caucasian people, I'm talking about Asian people, I'm talking about Arab people, and I'm talking about even the Negro, even the diaspora African Hebrew. We don't all have the same diet. We do not all have the same principles and culture. We don't even look at love the same way. But the problem with the Negro, specifically in America, and all those who have been scattered abroad under auspices of being diaspora, we have come under the culture, principles, thought, and spirituality, and even diet of a people that is not us. And wondering why, when we look at the scope of the culture or the geographical locations of where we've been scattered, why in every geographical location we are number one in sickness. And that's just not physical sickness, that's also mental sickness as well. We are number one. So if y'all ready to get started, type in some ones in the chat, and we about to start the presentation. If y'all ready to get started, type some ones in the chat. If y'all ready to get started, type some ones in the chat. We about to get started. Make sure my stuff is clear on my end. I'm just double checking my screen, y'all. Make sure we clear my end. Okay, cool. All right, so let's get it. Share my presentation. I'm about to get started. And what I'm about to pretty much share with y'all is parts of my presentation that I actually did in when I did a presentation in a lecture in Utica, New York. We did the National Health Conference with Elder Shemaya, hosted by Elder Ima Navia. So shout out to her for just opening her house, opening the building for her people to learn healing on a molecular level and even understanding what sovereignty is. So shout out to Elder Ima Navia for that. But what I'm about to show y'all is part of the presentation that I went through with them. And just understanding, right? Because we have this thing of thinking that health alone is just about food. Food is more like the seal of health. It's what helps. It's like the glue of creating homeostasis within the body, but it is not the only source of how we obtain homeostasis. It is a major part, but it's not the only way. A lot of us is not understanding that there is an external factor that plays a major part when it comes to our health. I've seen people go on a cleanse and literally have the most toxic environment and will not heal, because you have to understand that your environment plays a major role on these molecular hormones that you release, that we call emotions. It's really hormones that you release. And anytime you're in a stress environment, whether that be externally or internally, right, your body releases a nice amount of what you call cortisol and adrenaline. And anytime it releases that, especially when it's an overproduction of that, it will start to dump it into the blood, which can start to make the blood or make the cells, the intracellular structure, acidic. And this is actually where inflammation starts to set in. So our external environment is just as important as our internal environment. I've seen people where they can have an 8-pack. And this is before I really got into health. Where I seen a man, like, he was training. He used to train. He had an 8-pack and everything. And you know, he died on the treadmill, which tells you that not just the external or what you look like on the outside determines what you look like on the inside. So we have to understand that all things internally and externally play a major factor on a body being able to achieve homeostasis. So for today, we went over last week when we went over, right? Being able to prove by documents. If y'all didn't check that out, go check out the live last week, which is called Soul Food versus Slave Food, right? And we actually prove historically and scientifically What foods perfectly match the biochemical makeup of the black man, black woman, black child? Scientifically proven, historically proven, and we even was able to prove it biblically, right? But today we're going to really deal with the external and how your external can have a major play a major role and factor on your health. So let's get started. Right? So let's deal with culture. Now y'all see this book called The Cultural Wheel. Culture is made up of many different things, right? One thing we have to understand about culture, the root word of culture is cultivate. Now, cultivate, what do you do when it comes to cultivation? Cultivation is where you till, which means you remove things. You make the ground hollow. You make it a place where seed is being able to be planted and it can flourish and grow. Based upon how you take care of the soil, how you till it, and how you manage it, that will determine how well that seed is able to not only grow, but produce. Well, guess what? We started as seeds too. And we were planted in soil too, right? Called our mother's womb. And then in our mother's womb, this is where our mother fed us through what you call the umbilical cord. So she was not only feeding us with her physical food, but even the emotions that she felt would be feeding through the blood. These chemical hormones would be released into the bloodstream and then pumped through that cord to feed that baby, to feed that baby. And whatever that mother was feeling, whatever that mother was eating, that baby into. And based upon what the environment that woman had created for that baby, we can see based upon the birth if it was a healthy baby or not. And that's just not, again, that's not just physical, but that's also emotional. And if you really pay attention to a child, and especially if you pay attention to that woman during that time of her pregnancy, and then pay attention to that child, especially during that time of his epigenetics between the ages of 1 and 7, and look at the emotions that child expressed, I guarantee, based upon what that mother was going through during that time of that baby being in the womb, you will start to see that baby through this span of time express those same emotions. Maybe not from the situation as she was in, but it could be little things like the baby not getting his way, or the child is not in the right environment. It would start to express the same way. Why? Because through the umbilical cord, that mother is feeding that baby hormones as well. And see, this is why women play a major part in being the first environment, or really the second environment, because based upon that man's loins, based upon how healthy he is, you can also shoot out corrupt seed. You see that? Based upon how his health is, based upon his mentality, based upon his spirit, because whatever he is shooting out of his penis, he is putting himself in that woman. So whatever seed, what type of seeds planted in that woman, that is what's going to be being birthed. On top of the second layer of that environment, being transplanted from that man to that woman, whatever environment she's placed in externally, it will be expressed internally, and that baby will be cultivated by that environment. So imagine a man who's a chaotic man, a lustful man, a man who does not have discernment, a man who makes bad decisions, a man who is hasty, a man who deals with anxiety, right? And he's taking all those hormones, because remember, the prostate, which is in charge of helping develop that sperm, is a gland itself, and it produces hormones itself, one being testosterone. So whatever that man is going through, whatever that man is eating, he shoots it out, and he is shooting out soldiers that's carrying that same characteristic and that same personality. But then that seed, that corrupt seed, is then getting planted into a womb that's not getting taken care of by way of what she's eating. That's not getting taken care of because she's in a stress-filled environment where she's not even able to work in her femininity. And so all that cortisol, all that adrenaline, on top of that mucus-forming food that's being released, is being pumped into that baby. How do you think that baby's going to turn out? How do you think that baby's going to turn out? That baby will take on whatever emotional state of mind that mother is in. See, and this is why cultivating the right environment, which is why we having this lesson, is imperative. Because based upon the environment that man grew up in, he would then place that woman in the same or like a similar environment that he's used to. And based upon that, he will put that environment on her. Therefore, she will put that baby in the same exact environment. And what we find ourselves is producing the same kind of man or woman. And that can go either way. That can go good or that can go bad. That can go from balance or that can go from imbalance. It all is based upon the external and internal environment that we set. This is why it's important for us to go through a true process of healing, because we don't realize that we are into trauma bonding. We are into bringing our trauma from our childhood and expecting our partner to play our therapist, lover, best friend, business partner all in one, when they're not supposed to do that. Anything that happened in your childhood, you were supposed to deal with before dealing with that woman, because that woman or that man was expecting a wholesome person. They was expecting a holistic person that would not come here to be a liability, but an asset to the vision. But when we are bringing problems that's of the past into the present, there's no way we can focus on the future, because we're presently too stuck on the past. And as a people, we have to get out of that issue of having PTSD. PTSD, whether you want to say post-traumatic slave syndrome or post-traumatic stress syndrome, it's all the same thing. Inheriting, right? Epigenetic inheritance, bringing that problem from the past into the present and trying to propel that past to the future. And we cannot do that as a people. We are carrying for 400 or 500 years of trauma, pain, death, sickness, disease. And if we want to see a whole people within a holistic environment, we have to first take the right steps of healing. And that's first understanding who you are, what you are, why you are here, and understand that that person that you was cannot be that person who you are. Because that person who you are will then create an environment for those who's supposed to be. And we have to stop doing that. We have to stop doing that. So with that being said, let's keep going. Culture. Culture is an environment. It's a place where you're cultivated. Whether you want to talk about plants, fish, fowls of the air, humans, or mankind, or a kind of man, right? Or beast. Every species has a culture. And that culture is based upon that biochemical makeup that will help that seed flourish and grow. And in our culture, we have different, what you call attributes of it. One being art, drama, and music. This is where we express our love for the culture. We express our how we perceive our culture. We express through music, art, and drama how we see our culture, whether that be past, present, or future. Right? Which will make sense why you see a lot of slave movies getting made, because that's all the black man, black woman, and black child can reference to is slavery. You don't see us making movies about Mansa Musa. You don't see us making movies about King David. You don't see us making movies about King Solomon. You don't see us making movies about the golden age, huh? You don't see us making true movies about the Gold Coast before this Sahara slave trade. You don't see us making any type of movies that's revolved around our glory. But you see a lot of us making movies, art, whether that be in the form of dance or picture, in the form of our past trauma, which that key point is slavery. You see that? Even when it comes to biblical characters, you don't see the true image of the biblical characters. So we don't have no reference when it comes to depicting our culture of our glory or our royalty. But everything is dealing with death. Everything is dealing with crime. Everything is dealing with adultery. Everything is dealing with stealing. Everything is dealing with a project that gives you a poverty-stricken mindset, down to the music. Down to the music. And we don't understand music, and we'll get to that later on. Music has a major impact on how we perceive life and how we go about life, and even the goals we set for our own life. Next, attitudes. Your culture actually produces and cultivates your attitude. It can cultivate an attitude of unity, or it can cultivate an attitude of division. It can cultivate an attitude of happiness, or it can cultivate an attitude of trauma and drama. It can cultivate an attitude of progression, or it can cultivate an attitude of degression. Or it's all based upon the culture you are born into or that you come from. Next is belief, right? We have belief, which we know the black man, woman, and child are very subjective to belief, which is nothing wrong with, but the perspective of belief will determine how far people go. If you're people that believe that you're supposed to just wait and not do anything, and you're waiting on somebody or something to happen, and you have no accountability to do nothing, that's based upon your culture. If you come from a culture where you do have a belief that something is about to change, something is coming, someone is coming, but you have the attitude to do the work until it happens, that's based upon the culture you come from. If you have if you come from a belief where you're supposed to always be the servant, always be the tail and never the head, that's based upon the culture you come from. On top of, based upon the people or person who's in charge or head of that culture. Next, you have language. We have to understand. We have the power of the tongue. And in your tongue, you have the power to produce life and death. So the English language, which is a mix, really, if you really look at it, it's a cursed language. It's a mixed witchcraft language that's mixed of Phoenician, mixed of Briton, mixed of Hebrew, mixed of certain Bantu words, mixed of Latin. And if you understand the culture on how we speak, all we speak is death. Think about it. Think about it. When we talk to our homeboys, we say, "What's up, my nigga?" But we can, for the primary, right, we can go into the history about where it derived from. But let's be honest. When it comes to the mindset of what we relate that word to, if a white man were to say the word nigga, it automatically triggers you back to slavery. So if we keep it in a proper perspective of what that word means to us, even when we say, "What's up, my nigga?" It's still derived from the derogatory term of how it was used in slavery. By default, because if a white man said that, or a white woman said that, or a white child said that, we would get offended. So we always referring ourselves to a derogatory term. We have our women calling each other bitches. Bitches is a female dog. Brothers calling our women hoes. Hoes is nothing short before whore. You see that? And we're always producing, we're always yielding death on the tongue. We have a new thing in our community where everything that's triggering to stress, we now say it's anxiety. When stress is actually a natural thing, if it's not overproduced. But we'll yield stress, or we'll equate stress to dealing with anxiety. So by default, we're putting ourselves in a mental depressed state or a mental sick place. You see that? Or how we view men. We say men are dogs. Well, last time I know it, all a dog do is hump and go to different things, eating hump all day. Not committed to nothing but itself. You see that? Even though, right, we can take these different characters of words that we're saying and we can apply it to the character and personality of certain individuals or people, but you have to understand that perception was derived from something that we all went through together as people called the transatlantic slave trade, called chattel slavery. But we're people that's hoping for something good. We're people that's hoping for something great, that something will change, yet we're constantly speaking life and death on we're constantly speaking death on each other. Next is customs. Customs is dealing with your daily routines, what you consider what you call the societal norms, right? And we can go with many different ways of what that custom is. But when we look at the American societal norms or customs, is that a custom that we can really find in our own ancient original culture? And the answer is no. How they politically choose how you get married and what's right, a right way to marry and a wrong way to marry, that's not part of our culture. How they have told us what love it should be and what it looks like. It's equated to emotions only with no concrete action of expressing that love. when it comes to what we wear, how women wear it. And let's just be honest. If you actually put a picture of a real prostitute up, and put a picture of how the modern day women dress today, and you put them together and you don't say nothing, and you ask a person, tell me which one is the prostitute and which one is a regular woman, your everyday 9-to-5 woman. You would not be able to tell the difference. Why? Because this country that we come from is nothing but full of whoredoms, whether that be whoredom in the mind, whether that be whoredom in the cultural apparel, or that be physical whoredom. So you can't even tell the difference. Nowadays, even now, I stay in Atlanta. When you look at a lot of the men down here, or even spread abroad, you can't even tell the difference between who's a homosexual now and who's just a regular man that just dresses a certain type of way. That's a custom. We now have what you call transgenders, where you don't even know who's a man or who's a woman. You see that? These are the customs of this culture. But is this the customs of the culture that you come from? Next is rituals. And rituals, really, we're going to tie that in with faith and religion, right? Because rituals is what you do on an everyday, right? Prayer, right? We're taught to pray with our hands closed, right? We're taught to pray with our hands closed. But if you look at your ancient culture and the manuscripts of your culture, even the Bible tells you that you're supposed to spread forth your hands. But who is teaching us this ritualistic practice of closing your hands? Huh? Another one is sitting at a table. And I'm not knocking sitting at the table. But our culture, we had a way of where we would sit at the floor, because remember, everything is reflective of our attention and perspective of life. Right? We sat on the floor and sat amongst each other and picked from the same bowl, because that was supposed to represent a unified people who were living selflessly for one another and would share and be in common in all things. Being on the floor represented us reminding ourselves to be humble towards our Creator and our people. Having a spirit of humility. Right? We would use our hands to eat our food because that was the connection to understand, right? That bacterial connection of understanding what I'm eating. And I'm making an emotional connection with my food. And I'm making intentions of when I pick this up, I'm consciously choosing to eat. But when we're sitting there eating forks, using spoons, right? Which, let's be honest, is not necessarily our culture. And there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just trying to show y'all a parallel of identifying what your culture is versus another people. Because based upon your perspective, what your culture is versus another people does determine your health behavior. Let's look at how the black man treats the black woman and a black woman treats the black man. Our behavior is very uncommon. Our behavior is not reflective of the ancient people, the ancestors and the elders that we come from. And quite frankly, if they see how he is today, they would be rolling over in their grave. How we treat our children. And to think that we're going to send our children to another people that's not ours is definitely not in our culture. To allow another people to educate our children from their perspective, when their perspective is not ours. If you go back to your ancient culture, we had a specific way on how we would teach our children. Down to this, based upon the characteristic and personality of your child, they would give you a teacher that's very similar in that same behavior or character or personality, because that person can assimilate and understand better than a person who's teaching in general. Because that's not the way of life you're supposed to do it. If you're a parent, you know that every child you can't treat the same. Every child you cannot treat the same. The way you address one child has to be different. So imagine that you're dealing with 20 to 30 to 50 children at a time. It's not natural, especially if you're not a teacher that can properly assimilate with that child on a level of understanding them and they understanding you. So even how we go about our education, when you see that they're labeling our children as ADD and ADHD, which means they cannot sit down, they're overhyper. When the reality is they're not overhyper, it's just they're not assimilated to the way in which you teach. But because we live in a When I say monolithic, I mean in a way where we think every person and every sort of mankind is supposed to think the same way, eat the same way, dress the same way, pray the same way. When that is even different, even in Africa. There's so many different cultures in Africa. There's so many different perspectives of God in Africa. But yet, and they all respect their culture. But in this society, although it's a melting pot of multiculturalism, there is a dominant perspective that they believe all that is a part of this society and culture should live. And that's just not the truth. Food. You can tell a lot about a person's culture based upon what they eat. So when you look at your plate, when you look at your food, whether that be breakfast, lunch, or dinner, what does your food represent? What culture does your food represent? Does it represent any ancient African culture that you come from? Whether you want to label yourself as being born in America, let's get past all that. Even if you want to go the route of saying we're aboriginals of America, okay, let's deal with that then. If that's the case, does your plate represent any aboriginal culture? Does it represent any African aboriginal culture? You see that? And once we get an understanding of that, then we will see what's the root cause of our sickness. Therefore, we can see what is the root pathway to our health. So let's continue. So who are you? What are you? And why are you here? This is the $1 million question that I want my people to figure out and answer. Who are you? And when I say who you are, I don't mean what your governmental name is right now. I mean, who are you? Meaning, what is your bloodline traced back to? What tribe do you come from? What region do you come from? What is your culture? What is your spiritual practice that your ancestors practiced? These are all questions that will lead you to a homeostatic level of health. What are you? Because based upon what you are will determine what you need to eat, how you need to operate, and how you need to think. And why are you here? We all were sent here to fulfill a mandate. We were all here and sent on a mission and a destiny that we need to fulfill. But we have been altered from that destiny because we are living willfully a culture that is not ours, that does not lead us on the path of righteousness, that does not lead us on a path that will fulfill us as a people and an individual, that will really tell us who we are and the great name that we uphold. A lot of us still hold dear to our slave master's name. Let's be honest. We will gloat and we will be very proud of a last name that in reality you really don't own, and that actual name owns you based upon who the slave master was. But we don't want to talk about that. We want to be proud of our slave master's name. And the reality is we have produced in this time more house Negroes than field Negroes. And why do I say that? Because the house Negro, because he had a little bit more freedom, he had a little bit more flexibility to be a little bit more comfortable. He had a little bit more better living situation. Although, at will, he can get touched by his master. At will, his wife can get touched by his master. At will, he can be put right back in the field. At will, he could be eating the scraps again like his fellow brothers and sisters in the field. But because he has a little bit better lifestyle than his brothers in the field, not only has he thought in his mind that he is better off and has reached higher levels than his brothers and sisters in the field, but he also starts to think that he is part of his slave master's family. And I'm talking about blood. I'm not talking about servitude. Because master gave him a little bit better clothes. Because master gave him a little bit better food. Because master gave him a little bit better living conditions. He is convinced that his master loves him. He is convinced that his master wants to be equal to him. Let's look at the Django. Look at Samuel Jackson in the Django. When he was talking about Jamie Foxx, right? And he's talking to his master. He said, "Who was that nigga on that nag?" He's talking to his master as if they were equal. And remember, when he kept badgering his master, he kept asking, his master was trying to be of servitude to Jamie Foxx because he thought he was going to sell him another slave. When Jamie Foxx kept badgering, that's when Leonardo DiCaprio had to check him and had to put him back in his place. Like, you forgot. You forgot really your place. You getting comfortable for the fact that you talking to me like this, like you have some type of power or power in my house. And that's exactly what the modern day mental slave Negro today is in, where we think that we're in a better position than our ancestral slaves or our ancestors who were slaves. We think that we have come further than our ancestors who was in slavery. We actually think we're in a better position than our ancestors that we were enslaved, not realizing that we are more worse than they was mentally. That we are worse, we are more divided than they were. Our families are more weaker than they were. We are more sick than they, and that's crazy, right? That we are even more sick than the slaves back then. We dress better, we got better houses, huh? They're letting us, they're programming what we can educate ourselves on, right? And because of these small little trinkets, we think that we are in a better position, not realizing that we are not only a degenerative people, we have degenerative cells, we have degenerative thinking, even the way we spiritualize God is degenerative. Where we have come to the conclusion that God should do all that we ask, and all we got to say is we believe. That is the state of where our people is, that we have put accountability on all other people except ourselves on what we should do to obtain our freedom. But that is not how Nat Turner thought. That is not how Harriet Tubman thought. Huh? Or Mentor. Huh? That is not how they thought. They understood who the enemy was. They understood the wicked and demonic system that they were under. And they understood that this was not a place spiritually, mentally, or physically that we should be. So yeah, we may not have the physical chains on us. We may not have the shackles around our wrists, the shackles around our neck, the shackles around our ankles. But I'm telling you right now here that we most definitely have the shackles extremely tight around our mind. So let's keep going. So, purpose of this is because we have to understand culture. Remember, culture, the root word is cultivate. We have to understand that our culture, our cultivation was in nature. Our education was in nature. How we understood marriage was in nature. How we understood God was in nature. Our clothes was in nature. Our food was in nature. Our medicine was in nature. Everything that we needed when it came to the perspective, mindset, and spirituality of our people was found in nature. Why? Because the original organic man was born and created in nature, which is Adam and Hawa, as some of y'all know as Adam and Eve. They were given an environment in nature. They were given a diet that was in nature. They were given a job and provision on how to maintain nature. They were even given finances and by way of metals or stones in nature, because they understood the value of how nature totally assimilated to their growth, development, and health. And so when you look at the state of our people, we are further in the city, the concrete jungle. We are further away from the country. And you will actually see, scientifically proven, those who live closer to the city are more sick and prone to sickness than those who live out in the country. You will see more respiratory disease and sickness for those closer in the city than those who live away from the country. Why? Because in the country, you have more organic, fresh air. In the country, you have more trees, huh? That helps synthesize carbon dioxide. and bring in oxygen, allowing you to breathe and allowing you to expand your respiratory system in your lungs. In the cities, you have what? You have a lot of crazy noise, which you'll go into too. A disturbing noise that actually plays a major part in your cellular development or underdevelopment. You have a lot of toxins in the air due to oil companies, due to train stations, due to planes going over the city, chemtrails. On top of, in most parts of the city, you have a lot of trash. So they're polluting the soil and they're polluting the air. And then on top of that, most of your jobs are inside. So you're not even getting a proper amount of sun per day. So you're not even able to go through a biochemical biosynthesis. Just like plants go through photosynthesis, you're not even able to properly go through biosynthesis. It's already bad enough that we're in a hemisphere that does not get the same amount of sun, nor is the sun closer to the equator as it was in our homelands. But you don't even get the adequate amount of sun. So when you look at every which way of life, from the way you breathe, from the way you eat, from the way you work, how you work, where you work, and then from your external environment, from going to a stress-filled environment, from work, a fast-paced environment, and to, for most of us, or most of y'all, going to a stress environment in your home. Groping that noonday. So every which way you go is stress. So when you look at it and you add inflamed, mucus forming, acidic forming food, how do you expect to ever have homeostasis? How do you ever expect to have true health and wealth when every which way you turn, from the TV, music, your relationship, your home, your job, on top of living in a plastic, paper-like house that don't even circulate properly? How do you expect to maintain health? How do you expect to sustain health? The reality is you can't. And this is why it's important to understand your culture. There was a reason why unfortunately, you have people who make fun of our brothers and sisters in Africa who make their homes out of mud, who make their homes out of clay. Did you know that actually living in a clay home or a bamboo home, or a natural wooded home actually brings more respiratory health to you? Seeing that clay has what you call iron phosphate in it, which is a mineral component of oxygen. It allows your home to not only circulate properly, but allows you to breathe properly. The reason why you have to have air conditioners on, the reason why you have to have fans on, because you're not getting any circulation in your home. So when you're making fun of a people who have better health than you, and you look at, not only do they have mud or clay homes or bamboo homes, but they own their car, they own their house, they own their food. They get up when they want to. They have their own business for the most part. Although the media shows something totally different than what it really is. I lived in Africa for a whole year, and I'm telling you, they're showing you a different side and a false reality of what's really going on in Africa. Not to say they don't have any health issues. Don't get me wrong, because the whole world is defiled, but they have a better chance of sustaining and obtaining homeostasis and health over there than versus us over here, because we're living in a toxic gas bubble. To be honest with you, we're living in a suppressed, circulating environment that does not allow us to breathe even properly. Most of us don't breathe properly. Most of us breathe in our nose and out our nose due to the programmed environment or even how we eat, because we're constantly stuffing our faces. So because we're stuffing our faces constantly, the only way we can properly breathe while eating is through our nose. And that's actually unhealthy. And that's actually going to be a whole nother lesson we're going to get into. So let's keep going. So let's get it, right? We're going to talk about plantation psychosis. Shout out to elder brother Nuri Muhammad. He actually coined this phrase, and he broke this down beautifully. And I'm a big believer that we can make and create our own information. We do not have to rely on another people to say what's facts or not. When we're doing our own groundwork, we're doing our own testing, we're doing our own research. We are the original scientists in the first place. We are the original philosophers anyway. We are the original doctors. We are the original farmers. We are the original entrepreneurs and businessmen. We are the original kings and queens of the earth. So, of course, I have no problem sharing information that was coined by our own brother who did his thorough research, right? So it's called the plantation psychosis. What is the plantation psychosis? The plantation psychosis is an individual who demonstrates transgenerational behavior, mental conditions, and traits that stem from traumatic effect of slavery, such as anger, anxiety, depression, identity crisis, while all the while not knowing who they are or why they suffer such mental conditions. This is what you call the plantation psychosis. This is a person who is, when it says transgeneration, I mean this is a epigenetic inheritance that has been passed down to you or from your ancestors from generation to generation. That's why you can go back and we say, well, we're cursed or we have inherited the same patterns because you are literally inheriting the same environment, the same diet, the same lifestyle, the same thinking as your ancestors who went through anger, who went through anxiety, who went through depression, and for sure went through not knowing who they are, what they are, and why they're here. So you have inherited those same characteristic traits. And this is actually a mental condition. This is a real mental condition that our people suffer from. This is why we literally cleave on to every culture, from St. Patrick's Day, from Cinco de Mayo, from what other things do we, from Independence Day, through Valentine's Day, through Christmas, Thanksgiving. And if you look at the history of these things have nothing to do with your people at all. When you go to the winter solstice and you get into the Celtics and their history and the rituals that they practice, that had nothing to do with your people. That had nothing to do with your people. When you look at Thanksgiving and there was a people who literally made a feast on the genocide that they committed on the people, that had nothing to do with your people. When you look at Independence Day and when it was founded and the situation that your people was in during that time, had nothing to do with you. When you look at Valentine's Day, and you go to the Greece and the Roman understanding the paganistic practice of Valentine's Day, had nothing to do with your people. Memorial Day had nothing to do with your people. St. Patrick's Day has nothing to do with your people. Easter has nothing to do with Jesus Christ. Has absolutely nothing to do with Jesus Christ, nor do bunnies lay eggs. So you see, we have adopted and took a hold and cleaved onto a culture and a people and a perspective that is not ours. Even when you look at how much money we spend during these times, we're spending billions and trillions of dollars on a people and a system and a company that does not benefit us. Do y'all know what we can actually do with that money if we applied it properly from a holistic standpoint? If we actually used that, we could have been had cities. We could have been had institutions. We could have been had health clinics that really benefit our people. You see that? So when we look at everything we do is benefiting another people and never benefiting us. So it says, get some. Hold on, y'all. So it says, oftentimes, these people, they are violent, confused, and aggressive, while also carrying mental superiority over fellow community members, along with simultaneously feeling inferior to said slave master. And the street name for what you call somebody going through plantation psychosis is a coon. That you will lash out anger, anxiety, depression, while suffering from an identity crisis, simultaneously thinking that you're superior over your fellow brother or sister who have less than you. But then you come from this inferior complex when it comes to your slave master, to the point that you would change your whole tone. You change your whole tone when master come around. You change your whole get up when you come around. You even change your walk. But as soon as you leave out that door, you back to being Akubulan CMOS master. You back to being pro-black, pro-liberated. But you change your whole identity, change your step, your voice, and your tone when you're around people that you have synthesized and perceived to be a better people than you, because you just don't know who you are, what you are, and why you're here, nor where you come from. You don't know your culture. We are the original man. And this, let me say this. This has nothing to do with speaking against anybody outside of what you call our race. But I'm simply sending a message to help our people understand that you can stand tall too. You can have your own institutions too. You can heal yourself. You stick around long enough, I will show you how to heal yourself. You can educate yourself, i.e. your children, by way of homeschool or partnering up with another family and creating an institution for our people. You can start in-home banking. We can start accredited financial institutions where we're getting grants or loans from our own people without taxing or showing interest. Because if you didn't know, putting tax or any type of interest on anybody is actually you're breaking the commandment in the Bible. For my brothers and sisters in Christianity or the Hebrew faith, to put interest or tax on anybody is actually you're breaking the commandment in the Bible. You see that? We have even taken on the perspective of how to deal with finances from a people that are going against our very culture. So some of the things that you suffer from when you go through plantation psychosis is paranoia. Always thinking that somebody's trying to attack you. Always on the defense that somebody's speaking against you or somebody's trying to bring you down. And we suffer from that a lot. Anytime that comes to correction, whether that be by way of man or woman, right? Don't we jump on the fence? Don't we feel defensive and think we don't have the right to speak against one another? That you don't, what we say, you don't have the right to judge. But judgment is not correction. Correction is not judgment. Judgment is the act on how you correct somebody or what you correct them on. That is judgment. For example, if I say somebody robbed somebody, that's not judgment. That's me pointing out the obvious and truth. Now, if I say you're going to jail for robbing somebody, then that is judgment. You see what I mean? If I'm saying, brother and sister, the way you perceive how a man should be or woman should be is wrong. That's not me judging you. That's highlighting that your perspective is corrupt and it's not the proper way, which is why you're probably not having the best relationship, right? Other things, anxiety, right? We already went over that. Emotional distance or disconnection. So we know we suffer from not knowing what continent we come from. And that's even becoming big. We don't know we from the ancient Americas or ancient Africa. And that's a whole debate right now. So we don't know where our real home is. We don't know what real country we come from. We don't know what language we speak. We don't know what tribe we come from. So we are totally disconnected and totally mentally disoriented because we cannot pinpoint nor assimilate to any culture that is actually similar to how we perceive life, which is why we go through an identity crisis of coloring our hair blonde. And I'm not saying there is black people that have natural blonde hair, but I'm talking about the people who would totally alter themselves to try to fit in. You would totally alter yourself to fit in. Or you're getting BBLs. You're discoloring your hair. You're wearing weave. And this brothers too. Don't think I'm just talking about this. Brothers is doing this now too. Where you got people literally out here trying to make themselves taller because they feel inadequate because of their natural height. We are going through a true identity crisis and we have a hard time accepting who we truly are. This is why we go through alternative measures to alter ourselves because we're insecure about naturally what we look like. And that is due. That is most definitely due to PTSD, which is post-traumatic slave syndrome or post-traumatic stress syndrome. It's all the same thing. Depression. Our people is number one when it comes to depression. Delusions. We're very delusional how life should be. We're very delusional what we should eat, what we should wear, what's the best for us, how we should think. Very delusional. Then we have, because of plantation psychosis, we go through being disconnected from reality, having these false ideas, having these false ways and false hopes of what we truly think that's going to liberate our people, get our people to a place of sovereignty when it's not reality. Let's think about one of our ideas. What do we got coming up? We have the elections. We are convinced, two things. We actually convinced that our people fought for voting. Our people did not fight to vote. Our people fought to be free. And we were convinced that voting was the way to be free, which was a lie. Our people did not fight to vote. We fought to be free. We were just programmed and told that if you vote, this is the path for your freedom. That's two different things. There's two different things. So now you got the Negro, the Negro who's suffering from plantation psychosis, thinking that the right way for us to get out of our situation is to either be Democratic or Republican and vote for a king that is not our own people. And I would encourage anybody, I would invite you on, probably sometime next week, to prove to me, since the inception and conception of us being able to vote, how voting has improved the nationalistic well-being of the Black community. On a national level, not your own individual desires, but on a national level, how has voting benefited the Black community? I challenge anybody to come on here and prove to us that has actually benefited us. And can you prove as a whole that we're in a better state environmentally, mentally, spiritually, and physically than we were before voting? Bring out the documents and show us. Because the reality is, we will put more effort into buying into a system that is perfectly programmed to keep us at the tail and the head versus buying into a system that would truly help liberate us on a holistic level, spiritually, mentally, and physically. Let's keep going. So, a lot of what we go through when it comes to disorders, disease, or sickness, one of the actual diseases that most people suffer from is called nature deficiency disorder. Nature deficiency disorder. What is it? Nature deficiency. Now, this is based upon children, but this also goes into adults too, because you carry, remember, epigenetic inheritance. You carry these same patterns and habits into your childhood, which you end up doing to your own children. So what is natural deficiency disorder? It is when children don't go outside and spend much of their time staring at a screen instead. Watch this. Now keep in mind, this is a real scientific disorder that has been proven and studied to this day. That shows when you lessen the time outside and have given much time to a screen. This is why I said this is for adults too. When you give much time to the screen, it may result in a short attention span, a decreased problem-solving skill, obesity, and other issues with their emotional and physical health. I'm a witness of this, especially in children. You take that tablet away, they lose their mind. They will even go into a depression if you take their tablet. They will go into a mental disorder and mental illness, all because of this tablet. Not knowing this is a scientifically proven disease called nature deficiency disorder. Because you are not, remember, you're not going through biosynthesis, getting enough sun, having human interaction, exchanging that natural bacteria, exchanging that natural energy. Not only does it shorten your attention span, it actually decreases your likelihood of being able to critically think and problem solve, while simultaneously creating, because remember, an idle body is a sick body. So when you're not able to expand and release that energy, it actually sits in your tissues. So you can be not eating and still getting fat. You can not be eating and still become obese because you're now allowing your energy to spread, and regenerate. So it's going to be stored into the tissue, which is going to create fatty tissues and other emotional and physical health, like anxiety, like depression. This is a real disease that y'all can look up after this. Y'all can research. As y'all see, there's a link, healthpartners.com. And this is actual doctors that go through this study. Let's go to the next one. Now, what's some symptoms of nature deficiency disorder? Behavioral issues, anxiety, obesity, ADHD. That goes right along with public schools. So when you look at how they do public schools, it's actually built like a prison. That's why it's called school to prison pipeline. Because they're not getting enough sunlight, you're forcing our children to literally sit for about almost 8 hours a day with only 30 to 45 minutes of any type of exercise, which most of the exercise is not even outside. It's in a gym that's circulating synthetic air. You have dubbed them an ADHD, not realizing what you're doing by causing them to be in an institution that causes you to sit all day. You're causing them to store up energy. And when they are sitting there not being able to sit still, not being able to really even comprehend or even be able to intake the information you give them, is because you're having them store all this energy. And what they're really saying is, I need to express this. So you're limiting their expressions by keeping them in public schools. When you look at our ancient culture, all of our education was outside. You wanted to learn how to nurture a seed, you would go farm. You want to learn how to take care of a family, you would be a shepherd. You want to learn mathematics, you would deal with the constellations. You would deal with nature and how the numerology of atoms were made. You see that? You want to deal with health, you will go outside. Because you know that your mineral composition is very assimilated to the mineral composition of any soil-built food or vegetation. What else does nature deficiency disorder do? Trouble maintaining focus day to day, tasks and activities. Vitamin D deficient, which we know a lot of Black people is vitamin D deficient. Simply, again, because we're not in our natural environment, where we got our natural sun, and most of our time we are spending our time inside. Depletion of physical and mental health. Depletion of the ability to retain information, education. And that's what y'all getting today. Y'all need to relearn, unlearn, and relearn how to educate yourself. Your education is not inside, family. Go outside and learn. Go outside and learn how to eat. Go outside and learn how to breathe. Go outside and learn how to stretch. Go outside and learn how to exercise. You will learn a lot by sitting in nature. Go outside and even understand obedience. See how the constellations constantly is on time. They're constantly in their circuits, in that divine time that they should be appointed. We have an appointed time too, every day, every season, every year. But you're not going to learn that sitting in the house. See that? So a lot of us are actually suffering from nature deficiency disorder. Let's keep going. Causes of nature deficiency disorder. Technology, we went over that. That when you spend more time on a device, even right now, I'm just being honest, us being on here, we find some brain cells, right? We overstimulating the mind. So technology can actually cause nature deficiency disorder. Lack of human relationship building. Like I said, everything is nature. Even humans are nature. When we're naturally exchanging energy, naturally having conversation that literally releases stimulant hormones called dopamine, serotonin, melatonin, These are things that actually bring you into homeostasis. Having a human relationship, which is why we were built to have families, have communities, have tribe, and have a nation, because it helps keep us in balance. What also causes nature deficiency disorder? Food grown chemically and manufactured versus from the soil. We already understand that. When you're eating, look, we're eating food that's literally called a genetically modified organism. A genetically modified organism. So you're eating food that not only is mineral deficient, but is chemically made that will alter and modify your genetic information, your natural genetic information. So when you add the environment that we're put in, from work to school to home, when you add the lack of true human relationship building, when you add the food, we are literally a walking tombstone. We are literally zombies, not knowing where we going and how we get there. Next, food cooked unnaturally. I said, it's called the microwave, but I say micro radiation. You don't understand it. Frying your food or cooking your food or warming up your food in the microwave, you're literally microdosing radiation. There's no different than you getting chemotherapy. Chemo meaning what? Chemicals. You're therapeutically getting chemicals to literally alter your genetics. Well, guess what? When you're actually eating microwavable food, you're literally getting a microdose of radiation that also would genetically modify on an intracellular level. Unnatural sound, we went over that. Train tracks, airplanes, honking the horn throughout the cities. Loud music like heavy metal can actually cause a nature deficiency disorder, which actually can disrupt the energy and hertz level of your cells. Scientifically proven. This is why one of the torture mechanisms that they actually use is heavy metal. Why? Because it literally distorts the frequency brain waves. It literally can fry and kill off and cause you to be in a depression listening to heavy metal all day. So now imagine that you're listening to music that literally talking about your homeboy got killed, your homegirl got killed. That's literally talking about murder. That's literally talking about rape. That's literally talking about killing, robbing, stealing. That's literally talking about depression all day long. And you have your cerebellum going through this rhythmic repetition of listening to the songs. What do you think will happen? You too will start to think murderous thoughts. You too will start to think depressive thoughts. You too will start to think that everybody's against you when you actually have a good family. Because you're listening to frequencies and waves that is actually contrary to your natural order. If y'all got that so far, type in some ones. I want to make sure y'all with me. If y'all got that so far, type in some ones. If y'all got that so far, type in some ones. I know y'all with me. We good? Okay. Let's keep going. So what are genetics? Genetics is the study of how genes and how traits are passed down from one generation to the next. Our genes, remember, our genes carry information that affects our health, our appearance, and even our personality. See, there's a reason why maybe your elders, your grandparents be like, man, you act just like your daddy. Or you act just like your uncle that you never met. Because you carry an ancestral information that's passed down to you, which once you're born, it's actually your duty to pass it on. Or it could be your duty to be the one who breaks the generational habits and curses so that you can create a new or regenerative way of living. So it's imperative to understand biochemical genetics, because you have to know if you were the one chosen to continue the righteous and royal bloodline, or you are the one who's supposed to be the regenerative chosen one that regenerates health, wealth, homeostasis, and balance, that it can be a healthy bloodline going forward. You see that? So to understand genetics, which carries information called DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, which we went over last week, it has these chains, these chromosomic chains that carry information. That carry information that's literally passed down to you. Just like a blessing or a curse genetically can be passed down to you. Real talk. Real talk. So we have to understand ourselves on a genetic level. And if you understand yourself on a genetic level, it not only tells you what you should eat, it tells you how you should eat, It tells you when you should eat. Because your cells have something called a biological clock. And based upon that biological clock, it tells you what minerals that your cells need, when they need it, and how they need it, and what source they need it from. And this is why it's so important to understand your cells, your tissues, your organs, your systems, which make up you. Because this is a community, a biochemical community that's literally living and flourishing and maintaining for you as a whole to live. Let's keep going. So, going again, we're living in a genetically modified environment, loud noise, fast-paced environment that causes stress because you're moving at a pace faster than what you would naturally move. I realize in Africa there is a such thing as CPT time. And here's the crazy part about it. It's actually natural in Africa. They actually truly, genetically, and organically live on CPT time or CP time. If you don't know what I mean color people time. That's a real thing. I thought it was just us in America. That is a real thing. But being there allowed me to truly understand how beneficial CP time is, because it caused you not to rush, and when you're not rushing, you're not stressing. Because when you rush, that means you got to be somewhere on time. And if you're not on time, you may disappoint people. It may be a consequence behind it, whatever the case is. So it causes you to stress out. When you stress out, you release cortisol, you release adrenaline. And when you unnaturally wake yourself up before the sun rises, believe it or not, that's actually unnatural. You're supposed to be able to wake up when the sun starts to rise, because once the sun starts to rise, your pineal gland releases something called serotonin. It releases something called serotonin, which your serotonin actually is predominantly produced in your gut. And once that serotonin is released, it's what helps you get energy. It's what helps you actually focus. It's what helps you become alert. It's what helps you actually be balanced. But it's literally scientifically proven. It's secreted by way of the cycles of the sun. No different than melatonin. Melatonin starts to secrete once the sun starts to go down. It's called your circadian rhythm. It's called your biological clock. So to actually wake up while you still naturally producing melatonin and start to function in a way that your serotonin should be produced, it unnaturally throws your rhythmic patterns off. So to be waking up before the crack of dawn as much, and we'll push that, oh, you should be getting, I get that, but the reality is not natural. It's not natural. And to throw your sleep patterns off actually throws your health off, because during your sleep patterns, you go through what you call an elimination phase. And during this elimination phase, or really that's actually your utilization phase. When you're going through your utilization phase, that's when your body starts to rest. That's the whole point of melatonin. It makes you calm. It relaxes you. It causes you to rest. Why? Because that's the point where your body starts to now break down your food by way of pancreatic enzymic reactions, and it starts to utilize the minerals in your body. It starts to distribute it to your cells. But if you're throwing your patterns off and you're not in your rhythmic pattern, it literally, you're not getting enough sleep. When you're supposed to get sleep, throws your pattern off. You not waking up when you're supposed to naturally wake up, throws your pattern off. And that too causes nature deficiency disorder. This is why Africans don't have a high rate of disease like us. They naturally wake up when the sun, I kid you not, I lived there for a year. They naturally wake up when the sun comes up. And when the sun goes down, they start to make their way back in and they get rest, literally. They eat natural food in the morning. They walk, they constantly are walking. So they're constantly putting themselves in a biological rhythmic pattern that causes the body to stay in homeostasis. It's only when they start to pick up Eurocentric ideas, perspective, and cultural practices where you start to see our brothers and sisters in Africa produce dis-ease. Let's keep going. Genetically modified people, we went through this already, right? Well, we believe that our hair, right, is not the best. We believe that our hair, they taught us that our hair is nappy, is unruly, it's not natural, it's ugly, right? They taught us that our skin was burnt, we crispy, you a tar baby, right? They taught us that our crowns was ugly when it was really the glory of the Creator. But again, based upon epigenetic inheritance, and you have parents that's unconsciously teaching their children the same thing. If you actually look up the history of weave, it will tell you that they started wearing weave. First of all, weave is an Egyptian custom. Let's get that clear. But that literally was for bald head people. Look it up. It was for bald head people. And when they started actually producing weave in America, you could find it. They literally started to produce it for insecure women. So weave is a sign of insecurity. Insecurity in loving your hair due to what somebody told you it should look like. And you having a perspective that's not real. Not knowing that there's a natural way that you can grow your hair. Botana oil, avocado oil, grapeseed oil, cocoa butter. These are ways that you could naturally grow your hair. Eating avocados, flaxseed. These are ways that you could naturally grow your hair. You don't need anything that's enhanced or altered to make you look beautiful. All that you need is, remember, I said everything that you need is in nature. Your hair is a reflection of nature. Just like a tree has that root, that top, that is almost, if you really look at it, looks like an expanded afro. You reflect nature too, and nature reflects you. Genetically modified food, we went over that. Genetically modified spirituality. We've been taught a religion that's really not our own. And if you really study religion, I'm not going to stay here too long, but if you really study religion, every religion has taken a piece of cultural practices of a people, and they have made a religion around that one, two, or three, those three practices. And they made a whole religion around it. But if you really look at it, where the origins of the foundation, that's why they call it the Abrahamic faith. Well, what was Abraham? What was Abraham? Did Abraham practice a religion? If not, what was he practicing that these religions use him as a focal point to make a religion? And when you find out, it always goes back to culture. So don't get me wrong, in these different religious practices, there is always a piece of you in there, but you got to know what's right and what's wrong. Because in some way, they've given you a genetically modified practice that does not align with your spirituality. Genetically modified music, went over that. Genetically modified clothes and identity, right? We are addressing that. There's no way in the world how we dress is anything relatable to how our ancestors dressed. The fact that men and women are dressing the same tells you that this is not an ancestral practice. The fact that they tell you as men that for you to look clean and nice, that you got to cut your beard, your mane, that you cannot grow your hair because that's not comely. That's not natural. That's not beautiful. That's not powerful. Our sisters, because they say you can't wear your afro out or your straight hair is the way to go. When your hair is not naturally straight, it's kinky, as they call nappy, Or you gotta cake your face up with makeup to look a certain way when naturally you are beautiful. And really, the beauty you're trying to obtain anyway, you can actually find if you have patience in the way you eat. If you eat properly, you drink enough H3O2 and H2O, you will find yourself having healthy skin without spot or blemish. But the problem with us is that we always want a quick way out. We want a quick fix. We want somebody else to save us and to do for us, and we don't know as a people how to do for ourselves anymore. So where other people can stand and stand in the stead for us and show us a way, we'll take that rather than putting in the work ourselves and doing it naturally. Natural. Genetically modified versions of success. We are being fed, spoon-fed, and programmed to think that music stars, athletes is the true success. That is the way to go. That is the ultimate way that we should live. That's the creme de la creme. We've been taught that that's true success. When we can actually look at the testimonies of these people and realize that they're not even happy. They got all those riches and wealth and still not happy. I'm going to tell you why. They're not happy because at the end, as they took their path to success, they had to lose. It's already bad before they got successful. They didn't know who they were. But then, as they went on the path further and further, they had to even lose more of that very person that didn't really know themselves even more. So they themselves even go to a depression and through anxiety, because at the end of the day, money don't make you happy. It is a defense. It does help. But when you don't know who you are, what you are, and why you are as lost, you are as sick, and you are as depressed as the one who is more poor than you. And a lot of times it's even worse, because I've seen poor people happy. And I'm not saying in the case where they're complacent, but they're just happy for the fact that they're living. They're happy that they got food, clothes, whatever the case is. They're happy with simplicity. While these people have this complex life and have all these things, are depressed. So y'all got to know what true version of success, natural success is. The greatest success you can have is knowing your God and knowing who you are. You can put the monkey suit on, you can put the monkey tie on, you can put the monkey dress on, but if you don't know who your God is, you don't know who you are sick. If you actually look at the old definition of wealth, it said wealth is actually health. And one part of health is mental health. One part of health is spiritual health. Another part of health is physical health. And you cannot truly say that you're healthy if these three don't agree in one. So we have a lot of rich, sick folk. We have a lot of wealthy, sick folk who is not healthy. So understand what true version of success is. It's not to be an athlete. It's not to be a music star. The greatest success you can have is knowing who you are, being at peace who you are, and loving who you are, and loving your God. Which goes to our next point. You are homesick. And this is actually, hey, y'all can look this up. This is a real symptom. This is a real sickness. We are homesick. The symptoms of homesick is this: lack of proper sleep, always nervous or angry. Don't that sound like nature deficiency disorder? Feeling lonely or isolated, not belonging to any societal norms or any societal communities, depressed, constant anxiety, overwhelmed or insecure, lack of appetite or concentration. So it says, according to the American Psychiatric Association, this is called adjustment disorder. This shows you that we don't belong here. And let's just remove the actual landmass. We don't belong in this system, because for the last 400 or 500 years, we have had a hard time truly assimilating or adjusting to the order of this society. I don't care how much you say you're an American. I don't care how much you think you're getting your bachelor's or master's degree. I don't care how much you think you get into politics. There's always still a natural discomfort and uncomfortability and lack of placement living in this society. It is. And what they have called it is diagnostic code F43. Adjustment disorder. So it says 45% of the Black community suffer from adjustment disorder. 35% of the community suffers from identity crisis. So we can say, right, 80% of us are going through an adjusted identity crisis. 80%. The other 20%, you know, we have bought into some type of relativity to who we are, whether that be through Hebrewism, whether that be through Pan-Africanism, and I would say to a degree, even Islam. Because Islam, for the most part, a lot of the culture goes back to a Hebraic Shemitic culture anyway. So you will see a lot of what you like NOI or Islam practice a lot of, let's be honest, African Shemitic traditions. They do. Christianity does not have any culture. They don't have any concrete culture that they practice. Jehovah's Witness does not have any concrete culture that they practice. Baptists does not have any concrete culture that they practice. Even these people that sit walking around talking about they're free spirited, they're a spiritualist. You still don't have any reference of culture that you practice. Because all you're doing is literally become a spiritual whore, and you're pulling from every societal practice or spiritual practice that's revolved around culture that you can, and you're trying to create this system that's not real. Because it does not assimilate to who you are, what you are, why you are, and where you came. Just facts. So what are some of the methods of war that causes us to go through this type of natural deficiency disorder? One of them is imagery warfare, logos. Logos means like a seal, right? So when we start to put on these clothes, we're putting the imagery or logos of those who have oppressed us. When we put certain things in our hair, we're putting an image on what they say we should look like. When we put on certain shoes, clothes, we're putting on the image of what our oppressors told us look like. Psychological warfare. Thinking that if you're not part of their plan or their society norms, that you're an outcast, that you are not of us, that you're really an exile, right? And you feel alone. You feel an insecurity, and you feel like pretty much you go through a depression, feeling alone because you're not adapting to the narcissistic, individualistic social norm of this society. Religious warfare. Reality is, and I'm not speaking necessarily against religion, I'm just saying reality. Reality is religion pulls you away from who you are. They don't teach. There's no religion that teaches who you are, where you come from, why you come from, and your purpose on this earth. They'll use a cultural principle from a culture and make a religion, but they will not use that to tell you who you are. This is why you see so many people fleeing the church, fleeing the mosque, fleeing. They keep going back and forth to these different spiritual systems and religions because they're trying to find a place home. But the reality is, until you know where you come from and your culture, you would never find a home. You would never find a home. Biochemical warfare. That could be through your fabrics. That could be through your cleaning supplies, which, again, when you're suppressing yourself in this paper-like asphalt type of house that don't even circulate natural air, and then you sitting there spraying these cleaning products, these chemicals that some of them even say they hold the C virus. I ain't gonna say the word on here, but they hold the C virus in it, and you're sitting there inhaling, messing up your whole respiratory system, inhaling these unnatural chemicals. That's biochemical warfare. Financial warfare. You got redlining, right? You got where based upon where you live and based upon your area code, where they actually will cripple you and suppress you from actually creating any type of financial gain or opportunity that will benefit or better your community based upon your area code. To this day, they still have it, right? When you look at the inner city schools and their education, right, and how they operate in inner city schools, they setting them up where they're not even able to create an opportunity to have a good path to create some sustainability or flourish. Food war, we went through that. Music warfare, we went through that. Spiritual warfare, we went through that. Marriage warfare. And this is something we probably have to talk about another time. But our perspective of marriage, the placement of what a man should be versus a woman should be, I'll just tell y'all, it's totally wrong. And we look at it from a Eurocentric mindset. We're looking at it from a Western Eurocentric mindset that you will not find these principles of marriage in our culture. You just won't. The way a woman in America perceives a man and the way the man perceives a woman in this culture, you will not find in our culture. So that means that even your way of viewing marriage is corrupted. Even your way of viewing love is corrupted. Education warfare, we went through that. Fabric warfare, we're going to go through that. Land control warfare, right? Where they're actually putting a limit, as you see with Bill Gates buying up all the farmlands. Remember, I always say, he who controls the food and controls the information controls the people. So long as they got control over the land, the soil, which means they have control over the food, which means they have control over how you get your clothes. So long as they have control over that, they are in control of you, because you have not obtained the skills on how to make your clothes. You have not obtained the skills on how to grow your own food. You have not obtained the skills of educating yourself on financial literacy, sovereignty. and landscape that you are in want of all things, in all things. Economical warfare, which goes into land control. We are not in any position to try to integrate in this system and take over power. The only way, and this is why Black Wall Street was so powerful until they compromised, is that once they started to create their own institutions, their own cities, their own bylaws, their own police force, create their own food, you see what happened to them, they bombed. Because that was the closest to freedom that we got, where we did not need them. And I'm gonna tell y'all something. That is the most scariest thing this society wants to see, is that the so-called black man and woman and child is sovereign, even within the land, have control over their education, have control over their medical care, have control over their clothes, have control over their food, have control over their children, have control over their whole people. That is the most scariest thing, because once a people is free and has total self-sufficiency and self-reliance, guess what? You got to have self-protection. And they do not want us to do that. So long as they control the economics and we sitting here trying to integrate into the economics, we will still be bound to them. Social class. If you don't know that lower class, middle class, and upper class is nothing but a social class way to keep you oppressed, depressed, and suppressed. Simple as that. History warfare. That's what all we talk about. They don't want you to know who you are, what you are, why you are. Because if you know who you are, that means you know what you need to do to be free. And that's simple as put. If you know who you are, why you are, and what you are, you will then find and understand that your future is always leading to freedom. And they don't want you to know that, because if you're free, their kingdom fall. So a lot of us go through what you call sensory deprivation. Sensory deprivation, if you actually look at what the deprivation actually means, captivity. What is sensory deprivation? Sensory deprivation, or perceptual isolation, is the deliberate reduction, right? It's a deliberate reduction. Let me see if I can do this real quick. Of stimuli, being able to detect from one or more of the senses, perception of the simple devices such as blindfolds or hoods and earmuffs can cut off sight and hearing, while more complex devices can also cut off the sense of smell, touch, taste, thermoception, and the ability to know direction. Sensory deprivation has been used in various alternative medicines and psychological experiments. The usage of the method of sensory deprivation can result in what? Anxiety, hallucinations, bizarre thoughts, senselessness, and depression. Through sensory deprivation, you can develop what they call the Ganser effect. So let's go back real quick. First of all, sensories. What are your senses? One of your senses is your hands. It's called your sensory deprivation. Your hands feel and touch. So they're able to absorb energy, right? They're able to sense things by touch. Have you ever touched somebody and you got an electrical shock? Or you've been in the presence of somebody, you gave them a hug and there was a certain type of energy that came over you, around you, and it gave you this weird feeling like you don't know if you should be here? You went through what you call a sensory effect. You went through what you call a sensory effect, right? And so one way you can deprive your senses is putting on thick synthetic lotions like Vaseline, like the synthetic shea butter, like Jergens. These actually can deprive your senses of being able to feel, to touch, right? And have a true essence on what's going on. It can deprive you of being able to sense things around you, which goes to your skin. Your skin also is one. First of all, it's your first defense, but your skin has something called hair, right? And this hair actually is powered by neurotransmitters, right? Which you know that your hair is an extension of your nervous system. So your hair actually helps you scan the environment. Your hair actually gives you that sense of fear, or gives you a sense of there's danger or there's a threat around. Or you ever been so excited that your hair stands up? Because your hair is scanning the environment and letting you know and sending out a sensory hormone that's alerting you what's going on. But if you're putting on, again, thick lotions like Jergens and Vaseline, It actually starts to clog up your pores and start to clog up your hairs where you're not able to properly scan your environment, which goes again now to your hair. We're putting all these greasy synthetic substances that literally clogs up our pores, that literally clogs up our hair follicles, huh? And it doesn't allow our hair to breathe, or we're always wearing hair wraps, or we always wearing weaves and not allowing our hair to oxygenate and breathe. That can cut off your sensory effect. And then you become sensory deprived. Another one is your feet. Your feet is another sensory transmitter where you're able to, what they call ground, right? And able to absorb the energy or absorb the mineral content of the earth. And it actually helps your body recharge and regenerate. But when you're wearing socks all day, when you're wearing shoes that you can't even breathe in, that's literally suffocating the soles of your feet. You're not able to sense, touch, feel, right? And be able to scan your proper environment, or able to absorb. And believe it or not, when you suppress anything, your energy got to go somewhere. And this is what produces anxiety, hallucination, and bizarre thoughts, or depression, because you're not able to exercise your energy properly because it's suppressed. So what is the Ganzel effect? The Ganzel effect is a phenomenon perception caused by exposure to an unstructured uniform stimulus field. The effect is the result of the brain amplifying neural noise in order to look for the missing visual signals. The noise of frequency is interpreted in the higher visual cortex, cerebral, like I said, y'all, the cerebellum or the cerebral cortex of the brain, and gives an hallucination. This effect can put many people in an alternative or alternate state of consciousness. You see that? So when you have unfiltered, unnatural noises, or you have information, you have distorted information that's being passed, or suppressed information that's being passed, it will cause you to go through what you call the Ganzel effect, and it can literally alternate your state of consciousness, or what we're going to say, it can alternate your state of perception, which will cause you to not think from your African Hebraic mind, your Bantu mind. If you want to go to the to Egyptian, your Nubian mind, right? Or Nubian mind, right? Your Ethiopian mind, your Nigerian mind, your Tanzanian mind. It will cause you not to think in a natural consciousness that is assimilated to you. It will cause you to have an alternative state. And what will be the alternative state of your consciousness? A Eurocentric mind. Because you're not Europeans. And when I mean European, I'm not talking about the landmass. I'm talking about the culture. You will start to think like a European, and you will naturally become, or unnaturally become, a Negropean. You're melanated on the outside, but inside you're a European. And wondering why you can't totally adjust or totally assimilate, because you're going through what you call adjustment disorder. What you're going through is natural deficiency disorder. So when you are straining yourself or pulling yourself away from your inheritance, your heritage, your culture, on the other side of that is death and sickness. It's a fact. And y'all seeing it right here. Let's keep going. So when you cultivate the right environment for the body will yield the right environment for balance, family. Simply put, when you cultivate the right environment for the body will yield the right environment for balance. So let's keep going. Which will go to this. There's a scientific study going on right now. Now, when you look it up, they're going to say, oh, well, it's still a theory, but it's actually been proven. And there's doctors out there that's proven this, but they're not going to tell you this. Some people are not going to tell you this, because if you understand that part of your health is in nature, that part of your health is being outside, that part of your health is eating natural food, taking natural medicine, and wearing natural clothes, and getting natural sun. If you start to understand that, you would, I'm telling y'all, you will cause an economical disruption in America. If you start to actually assimilate to a natural environment, internally and externally, and start to do natural skills like growing your own food and make your own clothes, you will literally collapse America economically and financially. And they don't want you to know this. So what we're dealing with is called biophilia, which literally means friendship with life or friendship with nature. So what is biophilia? Biophilia is a focus on the human connection to nature and the natural processes. Studies have shown that humans, now keep this in mind, it didn't say just a mental connection. It says studies have shown that humans have a genetic connection to nature that has been built up through hundreds and thousands of years due to living in natural environments, which assist and improves the mental and physical state, y'all. This is a scientific fact. When you bring mankind back to nature, nature will be induced and assimilated to mankind. And when you put the two together, you find homeostasis, or what we're going to say, you find biophilia. Biophilia. Again, biophilia is a focus on the human connection to nature, the natural processes. Studies have shown that humans have a genetic connection, which again, go watch my last lesson. Go watch my last lecture. We went through slave food versus soul food. I prove without a shadow of a doubt that not only historically, culturally, economically, but even scientifically and biochemically, we are assimilated to nature. Therefore, you will find our food in nature. Your Bible says this, history says this, and nature and science says this. So it says they have a genetic connection to nature that has been built up through hundreds and thousands of years due to living in natural environments, which assist and improve the mental and physical state. So biophilia, this is the stats, and I gave y'all the source at the bottom. It says by 2050, 66% of the developed world will be urbanized, and thus we are becoming increasingly distant from nature. And y'all see this. If you live in cities like Atlanta, New York, Cleveland, Los Angeles, Miami, y'all see they're knocking down more trees and implementing more concrete buildings, brick and mortars. They're implementing more synthetic houses and knocking down more trees. And the thing about this, now, of course, I don't believe they'll ever be able to wipe out every tree in the world. And the crazy thing is, I think they will try. But for the sense of playing with the theory, if they actually knock down every tree, do y'all know where we would literally die? We would literally die. When we breathe out carbon dioxide, it is the trees that help not only cleanse the air, but helps bring back oxygen within our body. If you literally kick out, if you remove all the trees, you literally start to remove oxygen. And once you remove oxygen, you will start to yield respiratory issues. And once you start to yield respiratory issues, you're going to yield inflammation, which literally is going to cause you to not only be dehydrated, but it's going to cause you to be in an inflamed state of mind, which is going to cause you to yield cancer. And we'll do a study on that because that's all it really comes down to. Cancer is nothing but dead, inflamed cells that your body is having a hard time removing due to inflammation and lack of oxygen within the body. That's it. It says North Americans spend 93% of their time indoors, while Europeans spend 85 to 90% of their time indoors. And when it says North Americans, it's actually talking about Black people. It says that we spend more time inside than even the Europeans, which is a fact. If you have, like, drive around your city and look who's exercising outside, look who's running outside, look who's spending more time in nature taking pictures. Back in the day, it used to be us, but now you see more Europeans out there because they understand that nature, being in nature, is health and balance. We have been taught that the sun is bad. Oh, it's too hot outside. I can't deal with that today. Sweating is bad. Well, sweating is a good thing. It's an amazing thing. And it's actually a detoxification method that helps your body release toxins. So you want to sweat. You want to go into the sun because you go through something called biosynthesis that helps you actually intake vitamin D. Your skin actually eats vitamin D, which is then converted into cholesterol, which then is converted into salts and sugars, which yields energy. So you want to be in. So when they're telling you to go further away from nature, yet they're going further into nature, and you wonder why you're becoming more sick than them. They understand the science. They understand the assimilation of the human mechanism called a body. They understand it. It says stress has been called the health epidemic of the 21st century. So this is the real pandemic: stress. External and internal stress. It said by the World Health Organization, causing significant costs for employers and increasing the need for individuals to focus on the physical and mental health, which means this: because they have created such a stress-filled environment, it's causing more people to be sick. And because it's causing more people to be sick, it's causing more people to go on what you call, what is this called? When you go on leave pretty much for work because due to your health, right? It's causing more people to go on leave due to their health, which means more workers are leaving, especially after the pandemic in 2020, especially when the respiratory issues skyrocketed high. More people are leaving work and having to go on disability due to sickness. So it says, research shows we recover significantly faster from stress when exposed to a natural environment in comparison to an urban setting. This source is by Sir Kerry Cooper, which is a psychologist. So y'all can look up all these stats, right? And so this goes to my point, right? Obviously, we're not in Africa. We're not getting the same amount of sun, nor is the sun as close as it was, right? Obviously, the food is not organic. We're not around as many trees as we used to. We're not obviously exercising or walking as much. So one thing that we started to implement is this, right? If I cannot live in Africa, let me bring my culture to me. So putting plants in your house, like a snake plant, Putting different plants like an aloe vera plant that actually helps the oxygen levels in your home and cleans the air. Putting plants in your home naturally, because the thing about that is when you actually see plants, it naturally brings a calmness and it releases dopamine in you that actually gives you a stressless environment. So putting more plants and natural things in our home, removing all the synthetic things, getting natural wooden tables or bamboo tables, natural bamboo or wooden chairs, getting bamboo or natural wooden plates and bowls, everything nature. If you start to bring nature in your home, you will see an increase in your health. If you start to have natural foods in your home, you will see an increase in your health, right? Stop thinking that you have to have all this land to grow food. You can be in an apartment and grow food, and I can show you how. I can show you how. There's actually a therapy behind growing food, scientifically proven, where it actually lessens your stress levels, And once you put your hands in our soil, being able to receive that bacteria and natural elements, the natural minerals from that soil actually helps healing the body. This is scientifically proven. So when you put yourself in a natural environment, even within your own home, you're able to combat the stress-filled environment that America is supplying. But we have to be able to willfully and take accountability to make sure that we are taking our own health back and stop putting it into the hands of people. Start researching local farmers markets. Start researching local farms. And then ask them, hey, can I volunteer on your farm? I want to learn how to grow. Not only will you pick up a skill for free, but now you can go into a place of natural therapy where not only you can take your feet off and put the soles of your feet in the soil, but you can put your hands in the soil and you have this natural effect of healing in your body. And then you're under that natural sun for however many hours you're out there receiving that biosynthesis, allowing you to go through that biological rhythmic pattern of receiving vitamin D. You see that we have to put the extra effort into taking our health into our own hands. We have to. We have to. So let's keep going. So this is on the World Health Organization. So y'all can actually get all this information right here. I'm showing y'all articles. This is why I want to do the YouTube so I can show y'all. I'm not just saying this. Other herbalists is not saying this. This is a real talk that these people are reporting, but we're not doing our due diligence and loving ourselves enough and loving our people enough to do the research. I should not be the only one. And obviously, there are plenty of healers, but I'm just talking to y'all on this live or those who watch the feed. You should be your healer. You should be your farmer. You should be your doctor. You should be your educator. You should be your sower. You should be your knitter. Huh? You should be your own surveyor and create and architect your own natural environment. You got to be willing to do what you need to do to create a healthy environment for you, your husband and wife, and your children. I'm telling y'all, you are the only one that's going to be able to take your health back and put it in a posture that when you do have children, you're no longer passing epigenetic curse inheritance, but you're able to pass epigenetic, holistic, healthy, inherited cells that will make our cells strong again, make our genes strong again, make our culture proud again, make our just people proud of who we are, what we are, and why we are. That's a mentality. It don't start with you picking the food. It starts with what you think about what you're about to pick up. It's your mind that we need to heal first, not your body. If we can cleanse the mind, the body will follow. Remember, in the Willie Lynch letter, they said what? Take the mind, keep the body. Enslave the mind, keep the body. Because if you enslave the mind, you will naturally enslave the body. But what we're teaching now is if you cleanse the mind and heal the mind, you will naturally cleanse and heal the body. So it says, an estimated 12.6 million deaths each year are attributed to unhealthy environments. An estimated 12.6 million deaths each year are attributed to unhealthy environments. You see that? 12.6 million deaths is attributed to unhealthy environments, family. What we got to say about that? 12.6 million deaths are attributed to unhealthy environments. It didn't say food. It didn't say drugs, which that's a part of it. All that's a part of it. It didn't say alcohol. It says your environment. The environmental factors is playing a major role in the unhealthiness and deaths of 12.6 million people. Y'all think that's by coincidence? That's diabolical. That's diabolical. That's planned. Because if you could keep up people sick, they will always rely on you. He who controls the information in food controls the people. So it says an estimated 12.6 million people died as a result of living or working. You see that? Living or working in an unhealthy environment. In 2012, nearly 1 in 4 of total global deaths, according to the new estimate from the WHO, which is the World Organization, environmental risk factors such as air, which we know for a fact the air pollution in America is real. Water, which we know, especially through fluoride, the water is contaminated. And not just the water that is in your sink, but even the water that comes out your shower is contaminated. Because remember, the biggest absorber and the biggest consumer in the body, the biggest organ in your body is your skin. So you're not only washing your food with fluoride-filled water, you soaking it in fluoride-filled water, you boiling it in fluoride-filled water, and that includes your purified water too, family. Get a water test, you'll see. That includes certain distilled water. That includes even certain so-called alkaline waters, fluoride-filled. So not only are you washing your food with fluoride-filled water, but you're even bathing in fluoride-filled water. Soil pollution. Did you know that 85% of the soil in America is depleted? So now you're wondering why even the food from your vegetables to your fruit is nutrition deficient. Your vegetables and your fruits is nutrition deficient. This is why the progressiveness of genetically modified food has exceeded so great, because the soil is depleted and is not producing enough mineral-dense food. It's not producing enough mineral-filled food, nutritional-filled food. So they have to modify because they're not producing enough. Look up the stats. Look how much food was actually produced from the soil last year. Look how much food was produced from the soil in 2022, 2021, 2020. It's decreasing every year to the point that what they ain't telling y'all, family, is America pretty much is in the midst of a famine. The reason that you don't know that is because you're eating this genetically modified food. So in your mind, you perceive that y'all have abundance. When the fact is, when it comes to naturally grown foods, we are literally in a famine. Prove me wrong. Y'all think Bill Gates is buying all this farmland for no reason? It's for a purpose. Because he wants to control you. He wants you to keep you in a sensory deprived mindset and in an alternative state of consciousness. He wants to keep you in a nature deficit disorder. He wants to keep you in an adjustment disorder. Because so long as he controls the food, which means for him to control the food, he has to control the land. And so long as he controls the information, he controls you. It says chemical exposure. This is chemical exposure. This is chemical exposure. My laptop is chemical exposure. My tablet is chemical exposure. Most people sleep with their phones on. Most people sleep with their phones on. Most people sleep with their phones on, which means you literally are getting micro doses of radiation in the 5G towers every night, where you should be sleeping with your phone in airplane mode or off, and especially out the room. So long as you keep that radioactiveness and chemical exposure around you and on 24/7, it keeps you in sensory deprivation. It keeps you from being in an anxiety state, a depressive state, your thoughts confused, brain fog. Ooh-wee. Climate change, we already know that. And ultraviolet radiation, which we know that don't apply to us because we got what you call melanin, one of the most powerful mineral compositions in the world. So we don't deal with ultraviolet rays. The only time you see us deal with any type of skin cancer or what you call sunburn is really when the body is toxic and you have deprived yourself from your chemical defense. Yeah, your Wi-Fi is Wi-Fi. Remember, your Wi-Fi is connected to what? The 5G towers. So absolutely, your Wi-Fi should be turned on. If you want to be honest, you should really unplug everything in your house. As long as you keep your TV on, your phone on, anything that can connect to the Wi-Fi, all that, you literally living in a radioactive ball. Don't even realize it every night. So you ever wake up, you feel like your body hurting, or you feel like achy, like you just went through a workout, or you're not getting enough sleep, because all that radiation is not only keeping your mind active, but it's keeping your body active all while you sleep. Let's keep going. I think that's the last one. Right? So watch this. It said, this is an article. This is also an article by WHO. So it says, spending at least 120 minutes a week in nature is associated with good health and well-being. Y'all see this? They're telling you this. They're telling you if you spend at least 120 minutes. So what's 120 minutes? That's 2 hours, right? And let's say 2 hours out of a 7-day week. So they're saying if you spend at least 15 minutes, give or take 10 and 15 minutes a day, just out in the sun, that can actually have an effect. I believe that you should be in the sun at minimum 30 minutes a day. At maximum 2 hours, because you got to recharge. But they're telling you being out in nature just for a limited amount of time helps with your health. So imagine you dedicate time like 30 minutes to 2 hours a day. You telling me it ain't gonna help? Yeah. Not only is it gonna help you breathe, but again, you get vitamin D, which turns into cholesterol, which yield more energy. This is why I tell all my people, especially those who dealing with like skin cancer, cancer period, you want to go through natural radiation, you want to go through natural chemotherapy, go sit in the sun. Take all your clothes off, go in a secluded area, and sit under the sun. That is actual natural chemotherapy. That is natural radiation. That will actually help regenerate your cells and will help with the degenerative cells. So it says this: a growing body of epidemiological evidence indicates that greater exposure to or contact with natural environments such as parks, woodlands, and beaches is associated with better health and well-being, at least among populations in high income, largely urbanized in societies. While the quantity and quality of evidence varies across outcomes, living in greener urban areas is associated with lower probabilities of cardiovascular disease, obesity, diabetes, asthma hospitalization, mental distress, and ultimately mortality among adults, and lower risk of obesity and myopia in children. Greater quantities of neighborhood nature are also associated with better self-reported health. Y'all, this is an easy research. This is what y'all can be doing. This is what you need to do. I'm telling y'all, especially the black man and woman who's literally made from the soil of the ground, from the soil of the Adamah, from the soil of the minerals, or the minerals of the soil. You need to be in nature. Your culture was in nature. Your food is in nature. Your education is in nature. Your philosophy and spirituality is in nature. Your perspective of God is in nature. It is. Everything that you need, including your clothes, which the best clothes for the human body is linen, which linen is made in nature from what you call a flax plant. And they have shown you, scientifically proven, I'm not going to go through it tonight, but this is going a little longer. It's scientifically proven that when you wear linen, because the frequency is at 5,000 hertz, that it has a healing mechanism that helps people with skin cancer. Linen, and it allows your skin to breathe and heal at the same time. That's why when you go to the hospitals, if it ain't cotton, the main fabric they have is linen on the sheets and your clothes, because linen helps your skin breathe and heal. If y'all want, I got a video on my YouTube y'all can go check out. And I actually go through fabrics. I go through understanding what fabrics do. Polyester actually makes you sick and can cause cancer. By the way, it can make you sick and cause cancer. Let's keep going. So we can end right there. So now, I think we went long enough, but we stop sharing this. But the point is this, family. The point is this. When it comes to your diet, see, diet is not just food. Because diet is what? It's what you ingest. It's what you consume. Your culture shows you what you should consume. Your culture shows you what you should be intaking. Your culture defines your personality, your character, your spirituality. Your culture, even if you want to talk about the Bible, what was the first cultural diet for man? Genesis 1:29. I've given you every green herb bearing seed, and the tree thereof bearing fruit with seed. To you it shall be food. I'm not knocking anything after that. I'm just showing you when it came to the original design, the natural design, one based upon your genetic code. Your diet was a fruit, predominantly fruit and vegetable diet. When it came to our culture, the main two fabrics we would wear is linen and cotton, both that chemically assist the well-being of our skin. When it came to our hair, we would naturally let our hair grow high to the sky like trees. Men would let their beard naturally grow because it would define you from a woman. Our women would have beautiful long hair and kinky hair and wear their locks or afros. Everything was divinely, naturally in order when it came to our wellness and health. When it came to education, it was outside. When it came to understanding time, it was outside. When it came to understanding the seasons, it was outside. When it came to understanding food, it was outside. When it came to understanding God, it was outside. When it came to teaching our children, it was outside. When it came to meeting your partner, that's the real outside. We was outside. We was not sitting in no house cyber dating, where you don't get to have that human relationship and that human connection and be able to kinetically share that energy to see if y'all on the same frequency and vibe. You don't find that on the internet. If anything, it's giving you an overstimulus and a false reality, which still goes into the box of being through plantation psychosis. No different than the slave master. He will match you up with somebody on the plantation, force y'all to have sex, and produce babies. Well, guess what? They get to cyberly do that by overstimulating, by showing us false realities. And then we meet up, we have sex, have babies, and we put our babies through the educational system. Tell me what's different. Tell me what's different. So when it comes to culture, your culture shows you the true pathway to your diet, your spiritual diet, your mental diet, and your physical diet. It shows us homeostasis on a holistic level. You cannot be healthy and be spiritually deprived or spiritually malnourished. You cannot be healthy and be mentally malnourished. You cannot be healthy and be physically malnourished. All three of these things must have balance for you to be considered healthy. If you do not have that, you are not healthy, my friend. So when we return back to our culture, we return back to who we are, what we are, and now why we're here for our divine purpose, which brings purpose, balance, drive, progress, potential, inspiration, aspiration, and direction. And until we line up, until we align back with our culture, we will never be aligned back with our purpose. So, family, your health and wellness is in your culture. Seek out your culture. We all have it. And I'm not here pushing one culture because just because you look like me don't mean we're from the same culture. You can have the bloodline that gets you back to Ethiopia or Kush. You can have a bloodline that reaches you back to the Aboriginal Native Americans. You can have a bloodline that reaches you back to Bantu, to Kikuyu, the Yo-Yo tribe, the Fulani tribe, You can have that. The Mandinka tribe, the Guinea tribe. You can have all that, but it's imperative that you align yourself with something naturally cultivating towards you, because that's where your health is. Get back natural. Get back in assimilation with your diet. Get back in assimilation with your clothing apparel. Get back assimilated with your language, because you have a language. Whether you want to talk about Swahili, Hebrew, Aramaic, Arabic, it's all, at the end of the day, it goes back to Africa. And it's a natural tongue that has natural power. Even when you look in the book of the prologue of Sirach, it said Hebrew was the predominant powerful language. Anything other than another language had no power in it. So we know that the ancients understood and believed in the science of the power of the tongue. We understood that because, remember, all things start here and manifest from here. And what you speak, what you call out, you create. So if you constantly speaking death, you constantly speaking sickness over yourself, you constantly speaking depression, you constantly telling yourself that you'll never have a good relationship, you'll never find a good man, you'll never find a good woman, you are right. Will Smith said something years ago. Now I stay with. He said, "He who says he's right, he who says he's wrong is both right." Or no, I'm sorry. He said, "He who says he can, he who says he can't are both right." Because that is the power of the tongue. And here's the thing about it: because you come from a creator, and you are in his likeness and image, which means you have the power to create. You have the power to create your reality. You have the power to create your environment. And it's on you if you're going to create an environment that's filled with sickness and death, or create an environment that's full of life, joy, peace, balance, mercy, grace, love, affection, light, prosperity. That's all starts here, manifests here, and manifolds here. Abracadabra, which is the Hebrew word. What I speak, I create. So family, it's on y'all. It's on y'all. We have to take the responsibility back of our health. And our health is not dealing with food. I need my herbalists to understand this too. Our health is bigger than just food. As we saw, 12.6 million people a year dying due to unhealthy environments, from their living to their work environment. We were not meant and built to stay in these cinder block walls that don't circulate natural air, that don't get no sun, working for another people that does not build our family on a generational level. And the reality, you cannot leave an inheritance living like that. Only thing they will inherit is the habit, the mindset, and the lifestyle of a servile, depressed slave. Facts. Tell me, for those who stuck in them, tell me what you're doing different than your mother or your father. Tell me what you're doing different than your grandparents. Tell me what you're doing different than your great-grandparents. And I guarantee you go far back to your ancestors that was enslaved, you will see that you're doing nothing different than them. The only difference is you have a perception that you have a freedom of speech. But even that's limited, especially when you start speaking against the powers that be. As soon as that good old Negro get out of line, just like Samuel L. Jackson did to Django. As soon as you can start getting out of line, speaking on the side of your neck, they remind you of who you are and what you are in their eyes. Wake up, family. It's on us. It's on us. So with that being said, I hope y'all enjoyed the lesson. Please make sure y'all like, subscribe, and share. Please share with your family, share with your parents, share with your grandparents, share with your friends, and make sure y'all tune in every Monday at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be live, unless obviously life takes place and we're not able to do it. But from now on, every Monday we will be live. We will be back next week. Also, if you have any questions concerning health, if you have any questions concerning if you got any chronic illnesses, any acute illnesses, any diseases that you're dealing with, we do CBC chart reading. We do iridology reading as well. So make sure y'all email us at the email that's going across the screen, and we'll make sure that we get back to y'all and answer your questions. Also, if y'all interested, we do sell herbal compounds for chronic illnesses. We sell body and skincare products. We sell whole wildcrafted herbs as well for anybody who want to create their own compounds and want to start playing with chemistry and create their own healing mechanisms. We have all that. So make sure y'all check the website out that's going across the screen as well. If y'all have any questions, it's on the screen. This is your brother, your servant, your herbalist, Mikael Ben Or. Welcome to the Edenic Experience again. This is Mike Monday, and I will see y'all next week. Peace, love, balance, light, shalom, and prosperity to you all. Peace, peace.